If you've done the seasonal questline, then you've probably already fought Lord Zir once, but fighting the endgame version of a Dark Master in World Tier 4 is a little bit of a different experience. So today I'm going to go over where to find Lord Zir, how to fight him, some of his mechanics, and of course the epic loot that he drops. As a note, if you want to know more about the seasonal mechanic for Season 2, Season of Blood, then I'll link to a video up in the card and down below that goes over that in more details. Also, if you need any other boss guides, I've already done the Beast in Ice, and I'm also going to be doing guides for Duriel, King of Maggots, Echo of Varshan, and of course Grigore. But you'll need to get subscribed for the next 3 because they may not be out at the time you're watching this video. Though they also might be out, and if so, I'll try to remember to link them below. Maybe leave a like while you're down there, but for now, let's get into Lord Zir and his mechanics. So to start with, like any good vampire, he has hidden his lair away quite well, because he's at the Eternal Seat within the Dark Way. So to get to the Dark Way, head east of Kjolvashad. After you enter the Dark Way, you'll need to proceed through the area for just a little bit. There's a few enemies, but they shouldn't pose any serious threat to you, especially not if you're there to kill Lord Zir. Quite quickly, you'll come across the entrance to his dungeon. Zone in, fight some of his vampiric minions, and you should be pretty good to beat on Lord Zir once you reach his altar and offer 9 exquisite blood. You can obtain exquisite blood from doing world bosses or completing Legion events. And just as a note, Lord Zir's level is 80, so if you're significantly below level 80, you may struggle with the fight. Now let's go over a few of Lord Zir's abilities. First up, his slap. It's almost as if he takes offense to the fact that you, a mere lesser vampire, would attack him, the vampire lord. But I guess it's time to slap right back and show him who the true vampire lord is. You can avoid this by positioning behind him, but realistically it doesn't hit very hard, so I wouldn't bother. Next up, occasionally he will hunch down, flap his wings, and unleash a rain of blood upon the arena. Watch out for where the projectiles land and avoid the puddles. Also, occasionally the puddles move and interact with his other abilities, so do be aware of them, but they're not a huge threat at least at the start. Now Lord Zir's most dangerous ability is one where he assumes a crab-like stance by rearing up, generates 2 claws of blood, and scythes them together across the screen. This is about the only ability that actually does damage from my experience, though that could be biased because I'm playing a druid. And so if you see him rearing up and you're feeling squishy, avoid it by moving behind him. After reaching 66% health, Lord Zir gains a new ability, where he teleports away from you and then begins to charge up a powerful wing blast, which deals damage and knocks you back. Look for the telegraph on the floor. Initially, it's going to track your location, but the position becomes locked shortly before the ability activates it, giving you a chance to avoid it. Now, in comparison to some of the other fights, like the Beast in Ice, Lord Zir doesn't gain very many new abilities over the course of a fight. However, due to his environmental effects and minions, he can be increasingly difficult to deal with, so he still gets more dangerous as his health gets lower. First up, the blood puddles that I mentioned earlier move around and sometimes merge together. Also, they'll occasionally emit projectiles which inflict vulnerable if you let them hit you. For this reason, I wouldn't stand near blood puddles, especially not near the larger ones. Though after they fire projectiles, they do seem to dissipate, so the arena's never going to be in danger of filling up entirely. Also, after losing about 20% of his life, Lord Zir will either summon blood orbs or summon blood seekers. Blood orbs persist for the rest of the fight and do one of 2 things. Either they summon some minions, which are great for proccing your on-kill effects, or they send out an annoying blood wave that will crash across the arena, damaging any player in its path. Watch for the blood orbs with a weird bubbly texture under them, and stay away to avoid the blood waves. When he summons a Bloodseeker, well, this can make things a little bit dangerous. Fighting not only Lord Zir, but the Bloodseekers that apply crowd control effects can be a problem, so burst them down as quickly as you can. Last but not least, when below 60% health, Lord Zir also has an empowered blood rain, which interacts with all the blood pools. He'll flap his wings rapidly, causing them to emit multiple projectiles that inflict vulnerable. So stand far away from the blood pools, watch the pattern, and be sure to dodge, or be really careful for the next few seconds after you have vulnerable inflicted on you. Now, in terms of general strategy, I personally found Lord Zir to be fairly easy in comparison to the other bosses. Maybe it's just because my build had good defenses, but most of the time my strategy was just stand there and beat on him. However, if I was less geared, then I'd approach it a little differently. First up, I'd try to position myself behind the boss whenever possible. That way, his most dangerous abilities will automatically miss me. And second of all, I'd try to move the boss out of the way. This can be quite difficult when he teleports to the other side of the arena, but in general, I wouldn't want to be standing next to any blood puddles or blood orbs, since the things they spawn could be problematic. Last but not least, if I wanted to maximize my damage on the Lord Zir fight, then I would invest into damage on kill effects, since there's plenty of adds that proc during the fight, letting you take advantage of this very powerful multiplier. But after you've defeated Lord Zir, and don't forget to collect your loot, and here are some of the unique items that you can farm on this boss encounter. The exact things will vary by your class, and if you need a handy cheat sheet, I'll link to it down in the description. But overall, this fight should be a breeze. The only thing that can be somewhat difficult is getting the exquisite blood in the first place. So just keep that in mind if you're looking to farm a unique. You might have to spend quite a bit of time waiting for and killing all the world bosses, or doing a lot of Legion events. But if you're able to, then it's probably going to be worth it, since a lot of uniques he offers are build enabling. Personally, I ended up getting quite lucky, and I also got the optional cosmetic on one of my first kills. So that was pretty fun, but hey, aside of bragging rights, it doesn't really give anything. And if you're struggling out in the fight, I have two pieces of advice. First is, you can always improve your gear or level up. The more geared you are, and the higher level your glyphs, the easier the encounter is going to be relative to your previous state. Also, because it tends to get hectic towards the end, don't worry too much about the early start of a fight. But near the end of a fight, try to maximize your cooldown use and really burn the boss's health. That way, you should have the best chance at taking him down. Now personally, I found the Lord Zir fight to be a little bit underwhelming in comparison to the other bosses. Maybe it's just the aesthetic, where he's this weird vampire crab / torso thing. Maybe it's the fact that even when I was doing it at a relatively low level, I was able to stand in most of the stuff he did, whereas the Beast in Ice actually did significant damage to me when my cold resistance wasn't capped and I was very under-geared. As a note, you should always cap your resistances before fighting a boss. But either way, I was fairly unimpressed with this fight, and I think the others are a little bit cooler thematically as well. Though I'm curious, which boss do you think is either the best designed fight or the coolest? Maybe you haven't fought any of them yet, and if so, fight a few, then leave your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you're looking for more content, maybe check out my Beast in Ice guide, or if you prefer reading to watching, then you can check out the full written guide for Lord Zir down at MaxrollGG. That's down in the description as well. With that said, thanks for watching, and a special thanks to my patrons and channel members for the continued support. I hope you learned a bit about the Lord Zir encounter, good luck with your unique farming, and I'll see you again sometime soon.